to the 12-Step Big Book Workshop. My name is Lisa, and I am a student of the 12 Steps Method of Recovery. My focus fellowships are CODA, Al-Anon, and OA. I'm so glad to see you all here tonight. I hope we have a very successful workshop. So please join me in the set-aside prayer with the willingness to have an open mind and an open heart, and the gift of release as we tackle the fourth step and discover the source of our painful resentments. God, please set aside everything that I think I know about myself, my step 4, and my resentments, so that I may have a new experience with my resentments, my fears, and especially with you. So tonight we're looking at column 4 again, which might be a good thing for you guys, or maybe not. I don't know, but it's pretty complicated. So this is probably the last night we'll look at it, but I want to make sure you guys really feel comfortable with it. And we spent a pretty good amount of time looking at column 3 as to, who our irritants are, who's caused us anger, and what they did and how it affected us. So on page 65, Bill indicates that the suggested way to do this particular work after you have completed column 3 is to go on to column 4. But I'm going to go off script and give you a tool for the practice while you are actually looking at column 3 and before you've completed it or have had a complete experience with it. In the anticipation of the use of the tool for the removal of our deep resentments, it might actually facilitate the excavating of column 3, which in essence will also enhance moving ahead on column 4. So if we look at page 65 in the big book at the very first paragraph, it doesn't refer to column 4. In fact, it doesn't even talk about resentment, but it is apparently the final suggestion for the completion of the resentment analysis. I'm using the column 4 approach in the same way that it was taught to me, with all those 7 variables on the left side of the worksheet, as you see in columns 1, 2, and 3. And this is very analytical work, and it is showing us our beliefs about who we are, how our lives work or not. And a key word in this process to identify our issues is the word should. You can see on page 65 that the 4th column does not exist, but this is the final instruction on step 4. So in keeping with the big book, 3 columns on page 65, and we've added the term the 4th column. It was not something that Bill had come up with. It says, we avoid retaliation or argument. We wouldn't treat sick people that way, which ends the paragraph. Completing your prayer practice, referring to our list of resentments again in the big book, we are putting out of our minds the wrongdoings others have done so that we are not looking at or blaming them anymore. In columns 1, 2, and 3, we're looking at it from the outside to see how we were impacted. Now, there is the only perspective that we are going to use, which is looking from the inside. What is the source of my reactions to people and circumstances that are on the outside versus what happens to me on my insides? The key here is our reactions. We resolutely look for our own mistakes in column 4. Bill doesn't explain what this means yet, but he is going to give us 5 questions to get us on the right path. On page 62, Bill said selfishness, self-centeredness is the root of the problem. And from this comes fear, and from that comes dishonesty and often unhealthy sexual behaviors. So this is how we get to the root of the problem here. We are exploring the exact nature of the problem by looking at the various forms of the self, such as Where have we been selfish? Bill asks this question, but he doesn't give us a definition of the terms he uses. So let's take a look at them. Self-seeking, selfish, dishonest, and frightened. So selfish thinking, what is the definition? What is the meaning in relation to the big book in our search? Selfish thinking is the mindset where a person is concerned primarily with their own needs, interests, and welfare, often disregarding or acting against the needs and concerns of others. This involves prioritizing one's own advantage, pleasure, or well being to an excessive degree, which can be harmful in relationships and decision making. Selfish is my thought process about myself, like no one else matters, such as how a narcissist would see other people. So, what am I doing? To be self seeking means to be excessively or exclusively concerned with one's own interests, profit, or advantage, often without regard for other people. It's characterized by selfishness and the tendency to prioritize personal gain, often by taking advantage of opportunities or people. This can be seen as an attitude of me first and is often used to describe someone who is opportunistic or mercenary in their pursuit of personal goals. Seeking for only myself is my behavior. My actions are what I am doing. And what is my fear? Well, fearfulness is defined as an emotional internal state that can manifest through various psychological indicators of stress, leading to behaviors such as escape, avoidance, fleeing, and running emotionally or physically. When scared, people experience physical reactions like a faster heart rate, rapid breathing, and may instinctively freeze, fight, or flee. Some people also add fawn to that. That's kind of a newer one. Finding a sense of safety through a trust in a power greater than ourselves is a key element in overcoming our greatest fears and anxieties. And I can't express this enough. Giving our fear over to our faith takes the pressure off of us to being in control because we're not. We are talking about that feeling we get when we are going to lose something that we want or not get something that we really want. Or sometimes it feels like we are completely out of control, and that brings enormous anxiety and fear. Fear is my biggest issue. Everything I've done was out of fear, and it ruled my life, meaning it colored my decisions for me and led to an inevitable agoraphobic lifestyle that ruled me for 15 years. My biggest remedy for the intense fear, anxiety, and panic attacks was to find faith in my higher power and consequently within myself. Both were acutely missing from my immensely fearful life. Where am I being dishonest and misrepresenting myself? Bill says, though a situation had not been entirely our fault, Bill has given us a broad perspective on this one. In seeing the common sense of it, we try to disregard the other person involved entirely. Now, again, Bill is asking us to turn the other cheek and look at what we think is their behavior and look only at our own behaviors and reactions. We're not looking at their motives or their perceived actions and the impact it has had on us. No, we're looking at circumstances at all. We are looking at our own thoughts and feelings, our own behaviors towards the event or person. And we need to be honest when we question our responsibility in the resentment and the conflict. So, where am I responsible for my reactions? When we do the fourth step inventory, it's ours, not the other person's. It may have started out with another person, but we are carrying it like a boulder. We need to drop the rock. If anyone's heard Sandy B, his story, or read his book, it's a fantastic story. You can even go to YouTube and hear the whole book. When we saw our faults, we listed them. We placed them before us on black and white. We admitted our wrongs honestly, and we were willing to set these matters straight. Notice the words Bill is using: faults, mistakes, and wrongs. We are taking responsibility for the first time. So let's look at the column 4 worksheet now. Please raise your hand if you have questions as we go along, because I don't want you to forget a question or whatever. I don't have any problem breaking for a question. It's good practice to say a little prayer at the beginning of each worksheet. So I wrote one at the bottom, the set aside prayer. That way we stay connected to our higher power as we begin, and to be willing, we want to be willing to set aside the things we can't control. So we transfer from column 3 to column 4, carrying information over. Go ahead, Rita. There you go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not quite sure I understand. So the self-thinking, self-centeredness, that's thinking exclusively about ourself at the expense of another person.
Yes.
Is that how you would deem it? That's pretty much sums it up. It's
Yeah.
all about us. It's
Yeah.
all about us and what we want.
It's almost a narcissistic view of the world. Like everything is
Okay.
about us. The world revolves around us. People should bow to us, whatever, your thoughts are. But it's a pretty self-centered way of thinking, meaning I'm the center of the universe and everyone else is just here to watch my life go on around them, so to speak.
Okay, and I've struggled with this for a while when we talk about the fear in this column 4. Because I was even talking to my one girlfriend about this, and we were talking about doing this step work and again, and she said, "Well, I think you're going to find most of it's fear," and I'm not. I don't understand what that means about the fear, and I know you gave the example, but I'm still not getting that, because I got one example in particular, and I guess I'm not seeing the self-centeredness part of it, my resentment, and yeah, I'm struggling with how all this works in
Uh,
column 4.
how about when we get to the end, do you feel like you might want to have me go through yours for everybody so we can get to the bottom of it? Would you be
Yeah,
okay with
yeah. Because I'm really struggling with how I make this work, and if I'm doing,
that? Okay.
this particular one correctly.
Yeah.
So I apologize. But yeah, the fear thing, I'm struggling with that one in this selfishness.
All
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Not a worry. We'll get to you at the end. We'll put it at the end and we'll have you go
Okay,
over your
thank
sheet.
you. Okay.
So we transfer from column 3 to column 4, carrying over some of the information. I'm using another example. This is a man whose wife is Martha, and I'll refer to him as Tom. So Tom has this belief, and he's pretty resentful towards Martha for being verbally and physically abusive, which he identified in his column 3 worksheet. So his self-esteem and pride are identified, and he's very clear regarding the belief that he is exempt and entitled, even special. Tom is shocked and embarrassed for the first time, and he is aware of it. But when he is looking through the beliefs, he sees all the reactions from column 3, and he asks himself what his perceived role is when he is feeling this resentment. So the perceived role, and you'll see on column 4, it gives you some examples: abused child, misunderstood person, abandoned person, rejected friend. There are many that can fill in that space. And for Tom, regarding his wife, Martha, he is saying that he's verbally and physically abused spouse, basically. And don't forget your set aside prayer. It really helps to come up with one that's related to the work that you're doing. So then we can put ourselves back on the stage to get an understanding and answer, which sometimes can really help. What is the role you're playing in this drama that you call life? There are some examples there on the sheet, but don't just pick one randomly. These are just generic examples to show you the kind of answers we're looking for and talking about. Are you the misunderstood person, the betrayed spouse, the abused child? The example area is just to give the dynamics of a variety of roles. On Tom's worksheet, he is the verbally and physically abused husband. And then the next question is the event true or false? Was Martha actually abusive to Tom? Well, yes, he claims she was. So it is not about his feelings, but it is about the event. Our feelings are always real to us, but the feelings themselves may not be based in reality, but they are nonetheless real. But hear this, they are not fact. In Tom's case, the event is true. He believes it did actually happen to him, so he would circle true. The big book refers to the wrongdoings of others as fancied or real. This highlights that even if the perceived harm was real, the addict's interpretation and reaction may be distorted by their own character defects, like delusion or pride. So consider before, during, and after the event. What was or is the occasion of the resentment? Because it might be something that is happening right now, or it can be that it happened sometime in the past. It could be decades. So we disregard the other person or whatever we believe the resentment is about. And instead, we're looking inside of ourselves at our motives and our distorted views. So, with our mindset of questioning or seeing the value or benefits to our holding this resentment, we look at these 5 questions. Where was I self seeking, selfish, dishonest, delusional, frightened, and or responsible? And you'll see they coincide with 1 through 5, those top 5 questions. So the first 5 numbered on the worksheet are these 5 that we're talking about that you would fill out first. And there's a little bit of hint in there. So when you're looking at self-seeking, you can see it's things that I do. It's a doing. So that means it's an action. When we get to selfish, that's a type of thinking that we do. We're thinking, we're being selfish, we're narcissistic. It's all about me. And then we get to dishonest, where it can be either dishonest or delusional, frightened, afraid, or fear that we're not going to get what I want or losing what I have. And then there's the responsible, which is where am I accountable or responsible for my feelings and actions when I feel this resentment? So for Tom and Martha, Tom's self-seeking behavior is he speaks poorly about her. He lies about the bruises that he gets. He calls her friends and tells them how horrible she is. And he tells his children that she's awful. So that's a self-seeking, and it's a behavioral. It's something he's actually doing. Then we go down to the selfish, self-centered thinking. So this is thoughts, attitudes, motives when you feel the resentment. So it's more around the thought process. So he thinks, I'm such a great guy. I deserve Miss America as my spouse. Everyone else loves me. She's the problem. And then we go down to dishonest and or delusional. How am I misrepresenting myself or my reality by lying, admitting, or deluding about this resentment? It's all about this resentment when we're answering these questions about this particular resentment. It's not about anything else. Go ahead, Joel.
How do people actually realize this about themselves? I mean, can they be that honest to realize that they're actually, I mean, I guess if you look down deeply enough, you can realize that you're lying about something. But can they really be that honest with themselves that they figure all this stuff out on their own?
Well, as you go down the third column and you're answering those questions, those are now coming over here and they're carrying over, but we're looking at them a little bit differently. So perhaps there's a point at which the people don't even realize what's happening on the fourth column page until it gets all the way to the bottom. And then it sometimes takes doing 5 or 10 different fourth columns before you even realize what the heck's happening. So I wouldn't say that people are like instantly enlightened and come up with all these answers. It's through this process that they're getting them. And it sometimes some people will tell you, oh, I've done the fourth step 3, 4 times before it hit me. It's not uncommon to hear that because people aren't getting it in the beginning. If you get it the first time, you go right to the front of the class because it is a lot to all of a sudden you just come in and you're going to turn over all your thoughts. It's pretty impossible. It's a process. Go ahead, Rochelle.
I was just thinking, I've done this a couple of times, and it's exactly what you said. The first time I did it, it was all about the other person. I resented them, and it was all about them, and that's all I could see. And I thought, okay, now I won't resent them anymore. But they still did all these things. They were still whatever. And as I've done them over the years, as I've done inventories, I all of a sudden thought, oh, when you look at that very last column and you start to the things start repeating as you do, like you just said. And I thought, oh, I was selfish. Oh, I was selfish again. Oh, I was. So maybe what I think I see when this person is doing this isn't really true, but it's my perception. And I think that's where that statement, you can't change them, you can only change yourself. You have to just let them be. And it was like that was my aha moment. So I think that's what happens, Joel, is that after you do it a little bit, you go, oh, I'm never going to change them, especially if they're dead. I mean, I kept thinking, what am I going to do if they're dead? But I'm certainly not going to change them if they're dead. And I'm probably not going to change them if they're alive. But there are things that I can do to, could I just give an example?
Yeah, go ahead.
I travel a lot. So we live right near the airport. And so I have a friend and we alternate driving each other to the airport. And every time I take her to the air, I've lived here 40, 50 years. She's lived here. We're you could walk to LAX from my house. She always says to me, no, go another street, do this, go down, make a left. And I usually argue with her the whole way. And when I get there, I'm so pissed off and she's pissed off. And 2 times ago when I took her, I thought, I'm going to try something different. I'm just not going to react. And I'm going to go the way she tells me. And I did. And we got to the airport and she turned to me and she said, I get really nervous when I'm traveling. And I thought, aha, I thought it was about me. It was all about me. She's doing this to me. No, this is how she deals with her nerves about traveling. And it was wonderful. I didn't mind her. She didn't mind me. And that's what I do now when I take her. I just let her be her and I follow her directions to the airport. Doesn't
Yep,
kill me in any way. So,
that's fantastic. Yeah, it's fantastic. And yeah, she's right, Joel. It's a process. And, when we first come in and we start doing this work, we're taking everything personal. We're not looking at ourselves. We think everybody's against us. The world's against us. Our addiction's against us. Our job, you name it, it's against us. Because that's how we come in with our tail between our legs. But as we do the work and we open up and we unfold all this crap that's been pouring down on us, we start seeing things in a clearer, more honest light, which is that's the goal. That's the point that we're trying to reach. Go ahead, Rita. You all set? Let me put your hand down so I don't keep calling on you. All right. So here we have Tom talking about Martha. And, he just said, I think she's the problem. I'm a great guy. So then we get down to dishonest, even though that should have been there. He says, I lied when it would happen to myself and others. I told myself it was okay, that I deserved it. I'm a man. I can handle it. She needs me. He did all this delusional, dishonest talking to himself in his mind to make it okay. And then fear of not getting what I want or losing what I have. What fear comes up? And he says, well, I'm afraid she would leave if I addressed it, or worse. And then he says, others will think I'm a loser and a weak and pathetic man, and I'm afraid to be alone. So there's the fears that keep him in place. And then the fifth one is responsible. Where am I accountable or responsible for my feelings and reactions? Nowhere does that say the event. It only says my fears and my feelings and my reactions when I feel this resentment. This is not about the event. We didn't create the event. We only create and continue to create our response to it. So he says, I pretended it was okay for her to hit me and didn't tell anyone, and I gave silent permission to her for it to continue. That was the original, when the first time it happened. And then currently, he says, well, how am I accountable? Well, I avoid her. I walk on eggshells. I stay when I should leave. I blame her 100%. He actively hates her. So that's where he's responsible for those feelings. He's feeling all those things. So he has to take responsibility for it, which is what we're going to see about ourselves. And then the next one is acting on my behalf with my self-centered behavior. When Tom felt this resentment towards Martha, how did Tom behave? He spoke poorly about her. He lied about the bruises. He called her friends and said, terrible things about her. He also told his kids how awful their mother was. And, he's sitting there thinking, poor me, I'm such a victim. So the next one is selfish thinking about ourselves. So self-seeking behavior, things that I do when I feel this resentment. He says, I speak poorly about her. I lie about the bruises, call her friends. He does all this crazy stuff and still wants to put it on her and say, no, this is hers. So there is a distinction between thinking about the true behavior. So the selfish one, so in contrast to self-seeking, it is just about the thoughts, thinking about ourselves, self-centered thoughts, self-absorbed motives, attitudes when we feel the resentment. We're thinking about ourselves because, remember, we are the center of the universe. At least up until right now, that you might find out that you're not, but we've put ourselves in that position most of the time without even being conscious of it. And Tom wants the world to side with him and see him as the victim of his situation. So in doing this work, we begin to unpeel that onion. We see the delusions we have about ourselves and others. And we cut away, maybe it's small pieces, but we cut away all of the false ego that we have allowed to dominate. And we begin to think a bit more realistically and humbly about the truths of our lives. It is a process. It takes time and work, but especially willingness to see things differently, to admit that it's not what we think it is. So here we have dishonest, misrepresenting myself. So let's think in terms of what we talked about regarding our instincts. Back when we were looking at the beginning of step 4, fight, flight, and freeze, the freeze instinct is the camouflage instinct to hide. I translate that very easily into dishonesty. It is misrepresenting myself. I represented myself as someone who was so agreeable. I was even being open-minded. I thought I was being open-minded and I wasn't. But I wasn't seeing it for what it really was. It was about other things. Then there is fear or being afraid, which is the other instinct of fight, flight, and freeze, to run when in fact we are looking to survive. And that is in literal terms of the running, to save your ass if you're being chased by a dinosaur in the Stone Age. But it is also metaphor where we are hiding and we're running and misrepresenting ourselves as something that we are not. We're running from our truths, but it's something we learned very early on, that we needed to run, flee, or fight, or all these very basic feelings from most of us from our families of origin. So, and where am I at fault or to blame? That's from the big book, but I may have mentioned that I exchanged the word responsible in place of blame. It's not in the big book, but I think it captures the meaning of what Bill's trying to get us to understand that we have here, which is taking full acknowledgement that this angry energy is coming out of me as my reaction to people and circumstances. They don't make me angry. They are the circumstances that I have allowed my reaction to create in me, which is my anger. Nobody else's. So, where am I responsible? Well, I'm responsible for pretty much all of it, other than the event, which could have been decades ago. So the then and now, I take responsibility for my response to the event. I don't condone what they have done. No, it is not about that. It is 100% about my reactions and repeated reactions that are causing me to suffer. If the original event, the then in this question, is an event prior to your being an adult, and months, years, or decades later, the suffering about the event, which the suffering is now the resentment, the suffering post-event is totally on ourselves. The event has come and gone, but we still hold on to the anger and other emotions about the event like it's happening right now or yesterday. The emotions are alive. We feed them regularly and then blame the original perpetrator because we don't feel good or we're not feeling blissful. The powerfulness and effectiveness of the worksheets won't be found in the big book, but the work surrounding some steps we will be doing in the future will bring it all together. You'll see it all as one complete picture of sanity. In step 8, it says, we made a list of people we had harmed. We did so when we took inventory. So Bill puts down some questions concerning harm so that we get clear here in the 4th step, because later on, when we get into the next steps, we will have pieces of information to have an effective 8th step, which is why we want to make sure we keep our sheets, because we're not done with them just when we finish the 4th step. There's more work for them. So when looking at the resentments from a couple of different angles, if we take a look at number 6, what harm did I cause this person? Check the ones that apply. If you feel the need to explain, well, you can, it's not necessary, and you can always, for your own information, put it on a separate piece of paper, but you can just X them. You don't have to explain them. You can just tick them off. There's been a lot of misunderstanding in the program in regards to resentments causing harm. Harm is a pretty specific word that means, in this context, what was the negative impact of my behaviors on them? What was the negative impact of my behavior? My harm is not my behaviors. My harm is not my thoughts and feelings. The harm is the impact of all of that on other people. This is about being specific regarding the harm to the person with whom you have the resentment. Bill wrote in the 12 and 12, giving us several ways of taking a look at harms, And they are listed here as physical, emotional, financial, mental, and spiritual. And he says, we might next ask ourselves what we mean when we say that we have harmed other people. What kinds of harm do people do to one another, anyways? To define the word harm in a practical way, we might call it the result of instincts in collision, which cause physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual damage to people. If our tempers are consistently bad, we arouse anger in others. If we lie or cheat, we deprive others not only of their worldly goods, but of their emotional security and peace of mind. We really issue them an invitation to become contemptuous and vengeful. If our sex conduct is selfish, we may excite jealousy, misery, and a strong desire to retaliate in kind. So just because they are up there doesn't mean they will all apply to your situation. For Tom and Martha, he checked off 4 of them. He didn't check off spiritual. Physical is pretty obvious. It is physical harm. Emotional is feelings related, upsetting people's feelings. Mental harm is about distorted reality. For instance, the catchphrases of our day is love bombing, gaslighting, those types of behaviors. Financial is money related or cost. Spiritual is not checked off in this case, but it would be interfering with someone's relationship with God or their higher power, or a person's spirituality, which is a bit different from religion. And we can answer questions about the 3 major harms here. We're not analyzing them. We are just checking the boxes so that when we do our 8th step, we can go back and here they are so that we can take a look at the level of harm we have created in a particular situation. So this is about our harm to the person, in this case, Martha, who is Tom's wife. All of these apply to how he treated her, which ironically is how he's claiming he's been treated by her. So number 7, what harm did I bring to the people around the person with whom I have the resentment, as referred to as collateral damage? Tom's collateral damage was done to his children, at the very least. They saw the events and they heard the things he said about their mother, and vice versa. We will dive deeper into the analysis when we get to step 8. We need to also remember not to use this as an opportunity to take a walk down memory lane. And don't throw out your sheets. You'll need them until we get through the 9th step. So try to hang on to them. In step 6, we will also be looking at our character defects, which is number 8 on the inventory worksheet. We will also be using the 4th step for our fear inventory and fear trains. So there's a lot going on here. Question number 4 is a straight answer as to what the primary fear is in this resentment situation, but there might be additional fears as was listed in the fear column on the column 3 worksheet. That was that right-hand column on the worksheet. So for character defects, Tom listed cowardly, fear-based, faithless, dishonest, and delusional. Number 9, why do I hold on to this resentment? What is the motive or the benefit or the value to me? Often our next thought is that there's no benefit to it. Well, actually, that's wrong. There must be something because we're holding on to it and have held it for a day, a week, a year, a decade, a lifetime. I mean, there are people that are in their 70s and they are still holding a resentment towards a parent from their childhood. And it's still a molting lava resentment for that parent. It is understandable, totally. I have been there. But what's the point? What's the benefit? Well, there's no benefit. It's a resentment, and it's going to make me use again. It's going to make me screw up my life. I'm so focused on this craziness of the resentment that I'm not functioning properly. So why do we still hold on to it? Why aren't we willing to release it? And if you're willing to release it, why is it still there? These aren't throwaway questions. These are very thoughtfully crafted questions that we take into our hearts and souls, as in the set aside prayer and set aside attitude. But to answer the question of why we hold on is that as long as we have someone we can project onto the deficiencies we have in our lives, then we don't have to take responsibility. We can blame them, the people on our grudge list, we can play the victim, and we're not even aware of it at all. It is our defense mechanisms, the 9 of them that we learned about before. They are unconscious reactions for our survival. We are penetrating the unconscious because we are digging under thoughts and feelings, trying to get to the source of this. So looking at Tom's perceived role, he said he was the physically and verbally abused husband. Now comes the process that Herb calls the turnaround, which he discovered from a book by the author Byron Katie. Byron Katie is an American speaker and author who developed a self-inquiry method called The Work of Byron Katie. In the book, it's titled Loving What Is. It's a wonderful book. After overcoming a decade of debilitating depression and dire self-loathing, she realized that suffering came from believing her own stressful thoughts. She teaches a process of questioning these thoughts with 4 questions. At the age of 43, she experienced a profound realization that finally freed her from her depression. She understood that when she believed her thoughts, she suffered, and when she didn't believe them, or rather questioned them, she didn't. The work is a self-inquiry process that involves using 4 questions to examine stressful thoughts. These are the 4 questions. Number 1, is it true? Number 2, can you absolutely know that it's true? Number 3, how do you react? What happens when you believe that thought? And the last one, who would you be without the thought? And then what she calls the turnaround. This is a way of experiencing the opposite of what you believe, which helps you see your thoughts from a new perspective. So after you do a column 3 in a 4 worksheet and become awakened to the power of it, and you have the experience of it, if you get the chance to read her book, it will totally reemphasize and confirm the work that we're doing. It's such a great confirmation of the human methodology here, because this is who we are as human beings, not just as addicts, but it is the human part of us that creates all the mischief in our lives. Tom's role after doing his work is that rather than the perceived role of abused spouse, he is abusing himself by staying in an abusive marriage and not trying to address it, and he verbally abuses himself and others around it with derogatory statements and poor behaviors. So Tom has to look at himself. Tom's realization after doing this work is that rather than the perceived role of abused spouse, he's abusing himself by staying in an abusive marriage without even trying to address it. He doesn't do anything, and he verbally abuses himself and others around it with derogatory statements. So Tom's real role, or our real role, is not what's your role at the top. His perceived role was an abused spouse, and what's the truth at the bottom? The truth, after he has gone through all of the questions and the insights, that he was totally self-abusive to himself. He thought all the abuse was her deal, and it turns out it was himself. So that's his real role. He went in, he looked at it, and he realized, I'm doing all these things that I'm blaming her for. So that needs to change. So step 4 is a moral inventory, which means by definition, an inventory of our values. Bill wants us to take a look at what the truth is, what the facts are, what reality is. Most, if not all of us, probably do not see reality as it is. Most people, according to the research, see reality as they are. It is a projection onto the reality of what is expected and believed, what has been taught, and what our experiences are. Most people don't realize that they think they are looking at objective reality and interpreting it objectively. They make decisions, they have thoughts and feelings, and they have perceptions based on all of that misinformation. When most people look at the news or at history, they perceive it incorrectly, some more than others, but because we have instincts, 3 basic ones that come from our brainstem, the first brain of fight, flight, and freeze. The biochemical reactions that we cannot change. We may contain them and perhaps direct them a bit, but they are going to happen as a result of our perception of threats. It is built into our brains from millions of years of evolution. Bill had the insight when he was 20 years sober writing the 12 and 12, when he called this dilemma instincts gone awry in the 4th step. He didn't use that exact language in the big book because he didn't know that psychological principle was in play. But he did, once he got sober, he did write in the big book what our reactions are to these instincts for our survival. And they are anger, fear, and dishonesty. He used different words to describe the emotion of resentment, which is what we have been looking at for several weeks. All resentment is anger that we felt in the initial stimuli, event, or circumstances that we held. We have never allowed it to go away. We never allowed it to be gone. And that was what he said precisely and intentionally. We held it and we created it. Resentment didn't create our anger. That is an emotional reaction to perceived threats coming from our limbic system. Bill uses the word resentment to express the word for anger that is held onto for a day, a week, a decade, sometimes more. Our next assignment will be, I believe it's going to be the next one, will be to take a look at the fear inventory, which starts on page 67 and ends on page 68. You have a jump start as you have already listed some fears in your 3rd columns in 2 different places. So you are prepared to do some of the fear inventory work, and it is a lot easier than the resentment inventory, and it goes a lot quicker. Then we'll go through the sex behaviors inventory. Bill didn't use the word shame in the big book at all. Shame has been added or used to represent dishonesty, which is the hiding and freeze phenomenon. Shame is on the same level as anger and fear. It's a way of hiding. All of us have all of these. Each of us has a dominant emotion. Mine is fear, and it was covering a lot of anger, so I have both. But fear would be my first choice. But whatever our dominant default position, it is human survival mechanisms or unhealthy coping strategies which build our false self. This is a mask that we are wearing that we don't know, that we didn't know we were wearing because it's been organically grown by us over our entire lifetimes. From birth until the time that we're sitting here right now, we have been building this. And there's 3 primary sources of our character defects. These instincts, anger, fear, dishonesty, resentment, and shame, we all have had all of these defects. And as mentioned earlier, each one of us has a dominant one. And then there are 3 different variations of them. We want to understand who we are, how we are built, how we were constructed, because then we can consciously manage or modify it so that we can become better human beings and, more importantly, admire ourselves deeper. This is why we do this work. It's the whole purpose of working on ourselves and then sharing and exposing the truth, such as what I or Herb have done. We want to know better so we can do better, and we want to be better, not just self-help or self-development. It's so much bigger than that. So we started with step 1 because we need the help of a power greater than ourselves to find freedom from our self-imprisonment. We looked at our resentments, made a list, checking it twice, looked at our reasons, and there might have been multiple reasons for each individual, and it was suggested that we limit it to 10 or so, which is a really good number because you get in those shark bite people. I also suggested that you limit it to 3 reasons per each of the 10. In fact, if you could get away with it in the sense that it would be satisfactory for you to have a healing experience, not to reduce the work, but for you to have the full experience by doing more contained work rather than multiple worksheets. I'm a big advocate of quality over quantity, but if you have done 10 in item number 1, names of people, principles, institutions, and you did 3 for each of them, you'd have 60 worksheets, columns 3 and 4. That's a lot. So think about what you're doing and how many you're doing. So beliefs, in the same way, the column 4 worksheet is about motives. What motivates it? What is the cause? Here we have responsibility. The whole point of column 3 is to see what my beliefs are and to challenge them. Are they realistic? Are they fanciful, delusional, or a lie? Don't do this thinking it is all a big lie. That would not be a set-aside attitude or prayer. Go in there looking at what your beliefs are. The easy way to find that answer is by asking yourselves, should. I should, you should, they should, the world should, even God should. This reveals really quickly what your beliefs are, and then you just hold it and challenge it. Is it a fact? Is it objective? Is it true? Does it reflect reality as reality is? Or has it been developed as some type of a default survival response on your part, and that it's not true at all? Or it might have been true at some point, but it is not true anymore. And the 4th column, with its turnaround, reveals to us our motives. We are attempting to reveal our responsibility, not for the event. Please hear this loud and clear. In most instances, especially when you're under the age of 18, most of what happens in your life is not your responsibility, especially when it comes to abuse. But then your reaction to it after 18 is your responsibility, and that is why the motive at the end is why you are holding on to this resentment, because you're getting something from it. Otherwise, you would let it go. That can be a hard pill to swallow. So 6 months, 6 years, 6 decades, and you're holding it for a reason. Otherwise, you wouldn't be holding it, because it's corrosive like acid and just as damaging, not just physically and emotionally, but spiritually. And that is what Bill says. It is fatal, actually. And as a result of that, we take a look at the deep resentment, the self-esteem, and the shoulds. We take a look at the deep resentments. This is what I really wanted to talk about. The place that we looked at, the prayer that Bill gives us as a practice to remove our deep resentments. We need to identify the deep ones, begin the prayer practice, and keep in mind what your motive is. You are not praying for the perpetrator, the person who may have abused you or betrayed you or abandoned you. You're not praying for them, although you are welcome to it, as that is a wonderful practice, but that is not the suggestion in the big book. The suggestion in the big book is to pray for yourself, for your healing. Pray for removal of your resentments. Column 4 is really an exercise in taking a confrontational look at reality. Those first 5 questions are all about me. Remember on page 62, Bill said selfishness, self-centeredness is the root of our thinking, the root of my doing, the root of my fear, the root of my dishonesty, and the root of my responsibility. I make a decision, conscious or unconscious, it doesn't matter. I am still responsible for it. I do not have a part in my resentments. You don't have a part in your resentments because we all claim 100% ownership. It's not a part because we own it all. No person and no circumstance created my resentment. I did. I created my reactions and I held that energy, the negative energy. It is totally arbitrary, but it is longer than the reaction that is both biological and psychological to the event or circumstances. That's our survival reaction. It's normal and natural, but then to hold it beyond a period of time, that becomes resentment, and that is dysfunctional, but it's also natural. But we get stunted in our emotional growth. It begins from the time that we first engage in addictive and self-protective behaviors. This is a slide from the start of step 4. I'm showing it again to reiterate what we are doing. We are identifying and analyzing various forms of self-centeredness, which is the root of the problem. At the bottom of the slide, which is where it belongs, is the source of our resentments, self-centeredness. Resentment is the fruit of the root. And next, probably next week, we will be looking at our fears. When you identify the negative thoughts and patterns that you created in your head, you are finding your own character defects that are holding you back from spiritual growth and will continue to drive yourself towards more addiction. With rigorous honesty to yourself in this process, laying everything on paper without omitting anything related, your 4th step inventory will become a place for you to discover the truth about your behaviors. Spoiler alert, your drinking, drugging, gambling, sexting, codependency, process addiction, etc. are not the cause of your behaviors. When we list memories from our past in the 4th step and look at them alongside our current behaviors, our higher power begins to show us where our deepest anger, resentment, feelings of inadequacy, and everywhere else we are struggling with truly come from, so we can have God remove them on a daily basis and live better lives during the recovery process while staying in contact with our Creator. Our daily steps of 10, 11, and 12 will keep us in that right space. So this is the last slide. This is the step 4. And I want to see, if anybody has any questions or has anybody started their step 4. Rita is going to share her step 3, Rita, or 4? Her step 3. We're going to go through Rita's step 3 so everyone can hear it. And like I said, if anybody has any questions about the 4th or 3rd column, please feel free. I can tell you that I'm working with people right now that are on their 4th step and have been for over a year now already. So yeah, I don't want you guys to feel like you were supposed to get this in a week or a month. Some people, an entire year, they can spend an entire year just on their 4th step, which I don't recommend. I think that you want to, grasp the message that is in the 4th step that you will get pretty quickly once you do a few of these. and we don't want to, you know, wallow in the negativity of our lives. We want to move on and get to the positive part. So if anyone has a question, please feel free. And Rita, if you're ready to share your sheet, we'd love to hear from you. Okay, Rita, you got to unmute first.
Okay.
It helps.
Sorry about that. I'm trying to go back and find my right columns here. Yeah. Okay. I've got one that I'm seeing I'm seeing a pattern here, and it's family oriented, and it's my brother, my sister-in-law, and unfortunately I see my sister-in-law a lot more than anybody, but it's the same behaviors with her. And so I see this pattern, and the resentments with her like a lot more frequently than the other ones. But yeah, so I'm starting to see this big pattern. But I guess I'm struggling with the fear part of it. But now that we've gone through it and you've explained a little bit more of it, I understand it a little bit more. So anyway, okay, so looking at this, start off with what I see this as going through. I think I'm making it too complicated because I'm going through and I am like answering each question, which I don't think is what you wanted us to do.
No, you should answer each question. You just don't have to write a book about each question. It could be a couple words.
Okay.
So who's the resentment towards?
This particular one, I'm going to use it towards my sister-in-law, M.
Okay.
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 And
And
do I
what did
need
she
to?
do? Yeah, what did she do?
It's really hard to describe, but when we go to family dinners with her and my brother, she completely ignores me. Like she doesn't want to be there. She does the same thing to my husband, but he just, I don't know, he doesn't care. But
Yeah, we don't care about him either.
okay.
I only
She
care about you
complete-
right now.
okay. She
All right.
completely ignores me, like she doesn't want to be there. And if she does say something, it's very condescending, very cutting. And then if I'm trying to have a conversation to be inclusive to her because I want to see my brother and I can't see him unless she's with him, like she won't even have eye contact with me, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
gonna put for ignoring me or cutting me.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I went with my self-esteem. My deep belief is that I'm a nice, loving, accepting person. And when she does that, my fear is that I'm really not a nice, loving, accepting person.
Okay. Good.
My pride, how I want to be seen, I want to be seen with respect. And I think that's really disrespectful for her to do that, to just, act like I'm not there.
All right. So then others should see my sister-in-law treating me as
Um, like a member of society, like I matter,
okay,
right?
a person who matters, sure.
Okay.
And what's your fear about it?
That I'm not good enough to matter.
Okay. Great. So what's your ambition? What do you want to have happen?
I want her to be nice. I want her to be nice, and I want her to treat me with respect when we're all together, and just be a nice person.
Okay.
Um, and my fear is that's never going to happen.
Okay. All right.
And and I want to be, I guess what I'm looking at is I need to start being okay with her making rude comments and being nasty because
Are you reading number 4, security?
yeah,
All right.
security.
So you need your sister-in-law to go, did you say go away? Is that what you said?
I need her to be nice.
You need
I
her
would
to-
like for her to go away, but I need her to be nice.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I need her to be nice.
Okay.
And why do you need that?
It makes me really uncomfortable when she's not.
Okay, so you need it to be comfortable around her.
Yeah.
Okay. And the fear.
It's never going to happen. She will never be nice.
Okay. Personal relations. How do you expect this relationship should be? Consider the roles. I expect sister-in-laws should.
Be like, I was expecting it to be like a sister because I don't have any sisters. So I was expecting it to be like a sister.
Okay.
That was my thought.
Okay. And the fear.
It's never going to be that way.
Okay. All right. So number 6, did you do the sex gender?
Not really. I didn't go too much into that.
All right. How about pocketbook?
Pocketbook, no, because it really doesn't affect anything with my pocketbook.
Effective value. Okay. So did you go on to the step 4, the column 4 on this one?
I did a little bit. And that's where I was getting stuck on the self-seeking.
Okay.
Because I wasn't quite sure. With the self-centered, I was looking at, the self-centeredness or self-centered. I deserve better than this.
All right. So let's go through it.
Okay.
At the top, when you consider your sister-in-law, when you resent your sister-in-law for being, you put ignoring me and cutting me down.
Yes.
Okay. So when you feel this resentment of her doing that, what do you believe you are?
I believe that I am not good enough to be recognized. It makes me feel like I'm not important enough to be recognized.
By her.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we get to number 1, which is self-seeking, which is a behavior, acting on my own behalf, self-centered behavior, actions when you feel this resentment. So what do you do action-wise? Like when you're thinking about this resentment, what do you want to do, like physically? What What's the feelings that you get?
When I'm thinking about it,
Yeah, when you're having, like, you're in the depths of the resentment, or, you know, maybe after you've had dinner with her, or maybe you've got a dinner coming up and you're thinking about the resentment and
I call I call my youngest brother and we gossip about her.
okay, so you
So,
gossip. Yep,
yeah, I
you
gossip.
gossip.
I gossip about her, yeah.
Okay. What else?
Um,
Do you plan her demise? Do you try to figure out how you can get to have a relationship with your brother, but not with her? Do you try to think of ways she could be uninvited or not be involved, or, you know, what
not
any
anymore.
other behaviors around self-seeking?
I
Okay.
just call my brother and gossip about her and complain. That's it.
Okay, that's good.
Complain.
All right. So then selfish. So selfish is thinking about yourself, about your ego, basically, like if you were a narcissist, your thoughts, motives, your attitudes when you're feeling the resentment. So it's all about you because it's selfish thinking. What would you say about this resentment?
I deserve to be treated better than this.
Yep.
I don't deserve this.
Yep. Good. And then dishonest, misrepresenting yourself or your reality, lying, omitting, deluding when you have the resentment.
No, I don't see that, no.
All right, so how about, so a misrepresentation would be, do you speak up and say something to her?
No.
All right, so you're being dishonest. So you would put that in the dishonest column. Okay.
Yeah. I say
You,
nothing.
yep. Do you tell anyone? Like you said you can't tell your brother how you feel about her, right?
No.
Okay, so yeah, your dishonesty will be that you can't, you don't talk to other people about the issue or the problem. And another way of misrepresenting would be like if you got a call and it was your brother and he says, "Hey, you and your husband and me and sister-in-law, we all want to go out. You good with that?" And you say, "Yeah, sure." And you really don't want to have anything to do with her. That's a misrepresentation. It's delusional thinking.
Okay.
So if an event like that comes up and you have this resentment towards this person and you're like, "Yeah, sure, we'll go out." That's totally delusional.
Okay.
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 It's okay. This is how it works, Joel. As you can see as we're going, how she's seeing things a little differently because we're showing her something different.
Right, but then you get into the whole thing of if she says the truth to her brother,
Mm-hmm.
it may clear her own head, but then does she create a problem with her brother and does she risk alienating her brother who she loves very much because she's saying something very negative about the brother's spouse?
Well, she doesn't have to say it in a negative way if she speaks the truth. And she can obviously give examples, but I would guess that because of this resentment, she doesn't have a whole lot of relationship with her brother anyways, because she can't have a relationship just with her brother, which she would probably prefer. Am I right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So there
Yep.
is always, in the speaking out, we don't speak out because then we're not dishonest. This is about seeing that we have a dishonesty. It doesn't mean that we go out and do the opposite of what our dishonesty is. It just means you need to know that you have a part in this resentment. And that part is your own dishonesty or delusional thinking about the events.
Saying nothing.
Yeah, saying nothing is a misrepresentation because you want to say something. You
Oh,
want
yeah.
you want to say, "Hey, what did I do? How did we get here? What can we do so we're not in conflict?" Obviously something. There's that desire, that sometimes that's the biggest part of the resentment is we really want to have a relationship with these people, but we don't know how to bridge that gap, that communication gap that's really gotten very deep over the years.
Right.
You know, we don't nip it in the bud. Like if it happened and the first or second time it happened, you say, hey, wait a minute, we got to check in and see what's going on here.
Mhm.
But we don't do that. We weren't raised that way. So now we're turning around and we're looking back over our lives and saying, yeah, I wish I had done this, but I didn't have this information. So
Yep.
I can still do the work. It's just going to be a little harder.
Very true.
All right. So then let's go to afraid, fear of not getting what I want or losing what I have when I feel this resentment.
My fear would be basically not seeing my brother.
Okay.
And nothing will change with her.
Yep. Okay. Nothing changes. Yep.
Yeah.
Which is
Excellent.
what I was sort of saying.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes, Joel, it does come to that where we have to make a decision. I've had to make that decision about some family members myself, where I have to make the choice to not see them, unfortunately. But
And
we
so
have
have I, and so have I. But then the another question becomes, is that choice that you make making you feel better than the resentment, or does the resentment make you feel, or do you feel worse with the resentment? Sometimes you try and resolve an issue for yourself, and you wind up making a bad choice in the way you resolve the issue. So maybe you resolve the resentment for yourself by realizing that it is a resentment, and that you are taking certain actions which may be a deception to your brother, but that you pinpointed it for yourself, but you leave it at that because you know that if you go any further and you talk to your brother about it, or you try and solve it in some other way, you may have crossed a line that you don't necessarily want to cross, but you've solved the resentment for yourself.
well, yes and no. When you come to a place in your life where you've made the decision that you really want to get well and you really want to be healed, and you can't continue to live the way you've been living, those things do come into play, and you do have to make a choice. What's more important, me living in a resentment that I can't change and having essentially a non-relationship with people because there's really no relationship there. It's not honest. It's not
Right.
open.
And that's the other part of it, is that,
Yeah.
okay. So,
Yeah.
but if you did have a relationship, then my point would be a better point.
Yeah.
Right now, and right now it's the point is not well taken on my part because there is no relationship.
Right.
But if there were a decent relationship, you wouldn't want to, you
If
might not want to, unless of course you could be honest with your brother, and and the honesty would transcend the negative impact on the negative hit on the relationship.
I'm going to make a blanket statement, which I don't often do, but a good relationship isn't full of resentments. So these relationships that we're talking about when we get into the resentments, they're not relationships that have been healthy and kind and loving. We're talking about relationships that cause us a resentment that's great enough to cause us to use whatever our addiction is. So at the end of the day, we have to look at that and say, okay, I've got this person in my life that I have such a deep resentment towards, I'm going to pick up tonight. That has to be really deeply examined, because in our lives, nobody in our life is important enough for us to use again. Nobody. And
Right.
we have to come from that place. We have to stay in that place. So like I said, normal, happy, healthy relationships aren't showing up on our resentment sheets. These are relationships that are strained. They've had, issues, probably usually long term. It's not like, oh, I just met this guy and I'm having resentments. It just doesn't work that way. And you also have to factor into it how dysfunctional we've been in our lives to allow these relationships to get to the place where we're so resentful that we want to use an addictive, substance. That's pretty strong. So these are definitely not normal, healthy, regular relationships. These are strained relationships to begin with. And we have to, at some point, make a call to ourselves, because we haven't really done that in our lives, to say, I'm more important than what's going on here. I love my brother. I'd be more than happy to see my brother on, my terms for a change. But being in her presence is really, really causing me some serious mental strain. And that's with any decision. You weigh the pros and the cons, and then you decide, okay, you know what? Too many cons, too many pros, whichever way it goes.
Lot of truth to that, Lisa, because 20 years ago, when I was really, really struggling to get sober, I had maintained a few months of sobriety, and we went on a family vacation, and she was the cause of my picking up again. And
Well, your resentment was towards her, but
resentment was, yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
You
over
know,
things happen.
if you're an alcoholic, you're not going to hang out in a bar. And if you're an alcoholic, you're not going to hang out with people that make you want to drink. It's too dangerous.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just not the way to take care of yourself, because we've tried and we've seen that it hasn't worked.
Lisa, do you ever recommend, I've never done this because I'm not the bravest person in the world, but approaching someone and saying, we've had this situation. Is there something I've done that maybe, like I said, I have never been brave enough to do that. But is there anything I've done? Because I thought about that with one family member. And the other issue is, if those people have children, then there's that layer. And sometimes their children are friends with your children, and there's a whole nother layer. So I think it's really complicated when it's family members. Be so much easier if we just resented people out in the world that we weren't related to.
It would be really good. We wouldn't have to have workshops.
No, we wouldn't. We'd be free as birds.
Yeah. I mean, it is hard. It's what usually happens is the people that we do choose to not have a relationship are still very sick people.
Right.
Like I said, this is not happening with healthy, well-adjusted people. This is people that are in our lives that have their own issues, which is why we do the sick man's prayer. But some issues we have to say, I can't rise above this without really destroying a part of myself.
Right.
It's just going to be too much. And yeah, it can be family, it can be parents, it can be your own children. But at the end of the day, if the behavior towards us is poor, we have to stop accepting that at some point. And does it require a conversation with the other person? Not usually, because usually they're the kind of people that aren't going to do this kind of work where they can be upfront and honest. I mean, we're sitting here doing this work, a lot of us, for 10, 20, 30 years, and we're still struggling. So when you take into account that you're dealing with somebody, like I have siblings that are in their 60s that are actively using and behaving like they are, I don't hold a lot of hope out. I mean, I would love that to happen, but I'm not fooling anybody. This is a process. This doesn't happen overnight. It's a tremendous amount of dysfunctional behavior and a lot of very ingrained patterns that have to be addressed. And a lot of people don't care enough to do it. And most of the people that are struggling, that we're kind of keeping ourselves away from, are still using something. They're having their own addiction issues. And we really just have to take care of ourselves. And, Rochelle, you said, do we go to them and say, is there something I've done? I probably would never go to anybody with a loaded question like that, because that just opens Pandora's box of, yeah, I hate your guts and I'm going to tell you why. If somebody has a problem with me, then as an adult, they need to come and talk to me about the problem, and vice versa. So I can go to somebody and say, I'm really struggling with how this relationship is working. And I have on occasion done that. And most times the relationship ends because they're not in any kind of recovery and they don't
Right.
know how to handle the information. So you have to really think about the other person. Are they in a healthy enough place where we could actually have this conversation? And chances are they're not, which is why they're struggling and we're struggling with them.
That's true.
Excellent points.
That's very true.
It's an unfortunate.
It's very true.
thing.
Anytime I've done that a couple of times with people, and the only time it ever worked was with somebody who was really put together very well. The other two times that I did that with people, they were people who were as effed up as they could possibly be, and the truth is that they couldn't handle it, and the relationships just got worse.
Exactly. And in those situations, the best way to help what's going on is to do the prayer work for them, because they need to find their way, not just with us. It's everyone in their existence that they're affecting that way. And some people just will not do the work before their time ends on this planet. It's just not in the cards for them. They're not interested. Some people would rather suffer than do some of this work, which seems like suffering to some people. But this is if there's any suffering with this work, it's the suffering that at least gives you the end result of freedom.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The suffering of what other people are going through, it's just going to bring more suffering. And then inevitably they're going to die miserable human beings, which I don't think we were put on this planet for that. We were put on this planet to experience joy. And we're all sitting here, 40s, 50s, 60s going, well, where's that joy? Well, we've been hiding it behind these 9 things on this page here, these behaviors. When you go back and look at your 4th step or your 3rd step, those are yours. They're not the person that you resent. They're yours. That's all your shit that you got to do something about. It's not going to go away on its own. And it's really not going to go away until you can actually see it and believe it. Because somebody can read their information, but they have to really embrace it and say, yeah, I do this. Oh my God, yeah, this is right. I'm just as bad as they are. It takes a lot of courage to say that, especially from people in our situation that have come from addictive relationships and lifestyles. Very hard to say, I'm wrong. I did this. Because we don't know what will happen when we do that. We don't know what the truth does to us. It's not something that's been in the foreground in our lives or with the people around us even. So the truth is very scary because we don't know the answers. But I will tell you, having done a lot of these with many people, this stuff is really going to set you free. I mean, Rita, do you feel differently, at least a little bit now, about your sister-in-law, now that you've read some of your stuff?
Yeah, I do. I honestly do. And then when I'm going and I'm looking at the last question, why do I hold on to this resentment? Because silly enough, I keep thinking things are going to change, and they're not going to change. They're not going to change. And I equate it to, because I like Snoopy and Charlie Brown. When Lucy holds the ball for Charlie Brown, when he kicks the football, that's the analogy I always use. She's always going to hold that football.
Right.
And pulls it away at the end. And that's what this is. She's never going to change. And you've said it so many times in this workshop, the only person you can change is yourself.
Exactly.
And I keep doing all these things, ignoring her and thinking things are going to get better and going and having dinner and whatever, trying to be a part of my brother's life. I have no say in what goes on in their life, but I do have a say in what goes on in my life.
100%. 100%. And that's true. And you might at some point decide, you know what? I don't want to be in her presence. You have that choice. You don't have to go to a dinner with her. You know what? I
Yep.
love you, but I'm not going to have lunch with you. Can't do it. It's too much.
Yep.
That's up to you. Absolutely. So, you know, I like to say, plan for the worst, but expect the best. Let's expect the best of people. But I also want to be prepared when they show up as they normally do. For my sake, not theirs, it has nothing to do with them. It's about me and how I protect myself from people that don't see things the way that I do. Because, you know, we're not changing ourselves. You know, people say, oh, people can't change. We're not trying to change ourselves. We're changing our perspectives. We're going to be the same person, but we're going to see things differently. And when we see things differently, we don't suffer. We're suffering at our own hands. We are the source of our suffering.
Yep.
You know, whether or not your sister-in-law ignores you or cuts you or comes up to you like you're the second coming of Christ, it doesn't matter. It's your perspective that matters. How you see it, how you choose to see people, how you choose to see yourself, how you choose to see the way your life works out.
Yep. This has helped me tremendously. Thank you. Because I've done this several times and I've never gotten like how all this, you know, goes together. But yeah, this like is clicking. So thank you so much.
The fourth step is my favorite step. And some people work with me just on the fourth step because I just have a God-given way of bringing it home really well. So anybody that wants to bring up one of their sheets in the workshop, I'm more than happy to go through it because other people learn from it too. You know, people aren't going, oh, Rita's got a problem with her sister-in-law. No, people are going, wow, I liked her answers. And maybe my answers are similar about so-and-so. And now I realize the part I'm playing, because I saw Rita's part in her story. It was crystal clear.
Lisa, I have a
Yes.
question.
Go ahead, Carol.
Can I read my sheet next time?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Are you third or fourth? Are you want to do third and fourth?
I've done both of them, yeah.
Okay.
I've
Good.
done this, but I've done this work before, you know that.
Yep. Absolutely.
Thank
I
you.
wanted to thank Rita. For being very brave and coming forward, but it was like a aha moment for me. Like even the Charlie Brown thing, I never thought about that. And it's like expecting them to be different, expecting them to do what a good person would do because Rita's a good person. And not everybody is a good person. And I think when that happens to me, I'm always so shocked when someone does something really crappy because I try to be a good person and it's like, why? Why are you doing this? So Rita, thank you. This was so helpful tonight.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. I appreciate you letting me go. I really do. Thank you.
You know what?
for
And remember, guys, what I said earlier in the PowerPoint. We see the world as we are, not as the world really is. That's what has to change. Because it's like Rochelle said, I think people are good like I'm good. And then you get hurt a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Because not everybody is Rochelle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that you have to incorporate. It's an emotional maturity that happens. You know, that's an emotional immaturity that we think that the world sees everything like we do. But most people, 99% of the population, actually believes things that way. That's we're the center of the universe. So if I'm this way, everybody's this way. It is comical, but it is true. It's true though. It's like you could probably Rita see yourself in the situation with your sister-in-law being, okay, well, I'm like this. Why isn't she like this? Right? Well, because she's not you. And that expectation is what's getting you into trouble, not your sister-in-law's different personality. It's that you think she's going to be like you when she can't be. There's only one Rita.
Well, I'm thinking to myself, I would never treat someone like this. You know what I mean?
Right.
These
That's
people I
right.
can't stand. If
That's
I
right.
couldn't stand you, I at least would be respectful to you. You know?
Absolutely. Exactly. Which is why you're so blown away by her.
Yeah.
Yeah. See how it's you, not her? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So she needs a little more of you, and you need a little more of her.
Exactly.
Incorporated to give you more balance.
Exactly.
So therein lies the statement that I forget how it goes, but something like the bastards are the ones that are our greatest gifts because they're the ones that really bring us to the place of honesty. Look at these people. The person that gives you the most distress in your life is your biggest teacher. Biggest and best lessons from the person that bothers you the most. Hi, Cesar.
Hi, Lisa. So, a quick question. What would Rita's perceived role be in number at the very bottom?
Your real role. Rita,
The
did you
real
go
role,
down?
yeah.
Did you go all the way down, Rita? Do you have a real role?
My real role in this is the way I put it down was I am a people pleaser. I show up, I say nothing. This is what I say. I show up, I say nothing, and I act happy-go-lucky because that's what I think is expected out of me. And then I leave being pissed.
What was your perceived role on top?
Her perceived role was I'm not good enough, not
Oh,
important
yeah.
enough to her.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Rita, your real role would be I'm not good enough, not important enough for myself.
Ah, okay.
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 Which when you get down to the depth of it, what sister-in-law is showing you through your resentment is how you actually feel about yourself. And that's where the healing needs to come from, is from you.
Okay.
So if you're a
Wow.
supreme people pleaser, you're definitely going to need to do some work on being good enough to yourself and for yourself instead of people pleasing. Because remember, people pleasing is the ultimate manipulation. Ultimate manipulation. That's my description of people pleasing.
Okay.
Because we people please because we have a huge investment in the other person, whether it's to like us, do what we want, support our crazy ideas, yeah, whatever it is. So we go into people pleasing mode going, if I can just get this person to really like me, I'm going to get what I want out of this. So whenever you're in people pleasing mode, you're in manipulation. Stop and think about what you're doing.
Okay.
It's a
Boy,
huge,
that is
it's a
true.
huge indicator. When you feel like you're trying to people please, whose love are you trying to win? Whose approval do you need?
Okay.
There's really no other reason to people please. People pleasing isn't I'm kind to people. People pleasing is it's a kiss ass, basically. It's that kid that sits in the front of the class, the brown nose, so to speak. That's people pleasing. If we were just showing up and saying, I'm a kind person and I'm going to do whatever I can to help you because I'm kind, that would be one thing. But we don't go out that way. We go out saying, I'm a people pleaser. I'm going to do whatever anyone needs me to because I need to look good. I need a little boost to my ego, and I'm going to get it if I please these people.
So maybe people pleaser with her isn't the right word. I just don't rock the boat. I don't say anything. I'm
Yeah,
just, I
Yeah.
ignore it. How is that? So that's not people pleasing so much as it is, I'm just ignoring it. I act like it's not happening. And I don't know what you would call that.
so you ignore her because
Bad behavior.
you can't
Yeah.
confront the issue within
Yeah,
yourself.
I ignore it.
Within yourself. You have
Yeah,
an issue within yourself. And when you
yeah,
resolve the issue within yourself, you can be in her presence and it won't matter because she's not triggering whatever's lacking in you. It will
Okay.
not make a difference. You could spend a week on a cruise with her and enjoy yourself because you're not expecting her to validate you. Validate yourself.
Okay.
Okay. Mark, do you have a question? I heard your thing beep.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was a mistake.
No problem. All right. So do you understand your real role?
Yeah,
Okay. And if anyone forgets, just look at your perceived role. It's right there. You're just going to change a few little words around and it becomes your real role, the honest to goodness role.
okay.
Okay. So now what you would do is you can do the prayer, you put her name in there, do it for 30 days. And remember, the prayer is for you, even though the resentment is around her. She's the teacher in all of this. She's teaching you whatever the lesson is that you need to learn. So you say a prayer for yourself, but she's in there because she's the teacher.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Actually,
Go ahead.
yeah, actually, I'm sorry. I do now have a question. Can you have her repeat what her actual role is, the last one, please?
My real role is I'm not good enough for myself.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sit with you okay, Rita?
Yeah. Yeah. Because that is how I feel when I'm done.
Exactly. That's fantastic.
Thank you so much for going through this with me. I really appreciate
Oh,
it.
no. You had the answers. It's usually just a little bit of just tweaking it a little bit. And when you tweak it and it gets right in that sweet spot, it goes, aha, oh my gosh, there it is.
And I really appreciate
It's
it.
really like that. It's that incredible.
Yeah, this just really came for me tonight. This week and last week were just like aha moments for me. And I've done this several times, but this, just the way you're presenting it it's just so good for me. So I really appreciate all the work you've put into this. It's just really hit for me. So
Good.
it's very
That's,
good. Thank you.
that's what we want to have happen. That's excellent. All right. So if there
Good thing you
aren't
caught
any more
that.
questions. All right, let's do the serenity prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change,
things we can.
wisdom.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Any questions, just let me know. If you're struggling with anything.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Kristen.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Everyone.
Have a good week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Okay. Bye, Lisa.